Okay, everybody, can you hear me okay? Everyone can hear this? Okay.
Yes.
I tend to get very animated with my voice, and as I talk louder, I'll try to pull away so I don't blow out eardrums, okay? It's just a habit of mine, sorry. My voice goes all over, I'm still going through puberty. It just happens. Anyway, but yeah, I'm Evan Brown, like you said, and I'm going to go over a couple things. And I just got to say again, when Stephanie said that earlier, let me tell you, that is a great day for those of you. Who still has a 9 to 5? Who still has a 9 to 5? Okay, nothing wrong with a 9 to 5. There's nothing wrong with a job. Some people I know love their job. I have an investor. We have an investor friend that just loves his job. He's some type of engineer, and he just loves these deals, and he invests on the side. But he loves his job, so there's nothing wrong with that. Just some of us didn't love our job. Didn't love getting up early and driving an hour and a half and getting yelled at when something else went wrong and they thought it was the end of the world when it was 15 minutes late or whatever the story was. Anyway, the point is that was a very highlight. I'm very proud of you guys, and that's awesome. I just wanted to say that again. So, but anyway, one of the things that we do here at Sir Couch Roundtable is really talk to more of the newer investors or people that maybe own some rentals and they're just getting back into it, because a lot of times we bring some amazing speakers and some of the guys that come in and they're talking analytics, they're talking about trajectories of the market going up and down, and they're talking about owning 50 houses and how they're running their office and the CRMs, and the average investor, the new guy's going, how do I get my phone to ring? How do I get my first deal? That's wonderful for them, right? Anyone relate? All right, I remember that. Okay, so I've only been investing really for about 13 years. That's when we started. I had a full-time job, worked like 50, 60 hours a week. I worked with my wife. She was not an agent. A lot of people think, oh, well, it was easy. She was an agent, and that's how you got started. No. She noticed, because she was a proofreader, all the mistakes the agents were making during escrow, and she was correcting it, and she finally said, I need to do this. And we thought maybe if we made $15,000 or $20,000 a year selling just some of our properties, that'd be a success. And we're almost up to that, actually. But anyway, it was one of the best things we did as well. But when I started, the club wasn't around. I went to one of the guys from TV, went to a weekend, I paid $1,500 for a 3-day weekend, and we learned about partnerships. It started partnerships. And I still have those partnerships today, and that was just a really good thing for us. So we never had an issue with paying for some education. But again, I just point out that we didn't have things like the club. Some of the things we're going to go over, we're going to kind of talk about that. I'm going to do a quick recap, though, the next 20 minutes or so of some of the things over the last couple classes. And there is something we handed out. That's for when Jim and I are going to be talking about walking a property. If you didn't get, who didn't get the 2-page handout? Okay, Jeff's going to run those out. Hold those hands up, please. Make sure he gets that. Okay, just so you know, when we did one of the first classes we did was like mindset and how we're getting deals, etc. And I just was going to point out a couple things, just the main key things on how we're finding deals today. Number one is driving for dollars and with Deal Machine. How many know what driving for dollars is? Okay, who does not know what driving for dollars is? Okay, driving for dollars is when you literally pick a neighborhood and you literally drive or walk or bike or ride a golf cart down a street, up and down the streets, picking out houses that appeal to you. Either they need some TLC, or they have grass that's 4 feet high, or cars on blocks, or whatever. And so they basically stand out. It could be the worst house in the neighborhood, could be the best house in the neighborhood. I've actually gone through and picked every house on the street, but a lot of times it's a couple on this street, a couple on the next street. One, if you're doing that with the app called Deal Machine, we used to write down the addresses and then take all these addresses, send them off to a title company, get a list, and it was just a mess. Well, Deal Machine makes it this app you put on your phone. You'll literally take a picture of a house, tag the address, and start a mail campaign, and it go out that week, that day, that week, depending upon how you have it set up. So it's designed to prevent you from procrastinating. I don't know about you, but I've driven by houses many times, driven by and said, oh, I need to add that to my list, I need to add it to my list. And then I don't do it for 6 months, I see someone else flipping it, making them $50,000. And I went, oh, it's only happened to me like 10 times, but it has. It sucks. So I do have some of these sheets over here, so afterwards that you can look at. But really, some of the things, driving for dollars is our number one thing. We used to buy lists. We'd buy a non-owner occupied where with high equity, that 1 to 4 units, that the owner had owned it for at least 5 years, that's above 70 years of age, and we did well with those. But things got a lot tougher, got a lot more tighter, and we were sending out more, spending money, not getting the returns, and we found that the driving for dollars, especially when Deal Machine got going, was very effective, and our return rates went way up. Matter of fact, I was watching last week a major wholesaler that I know does a couple hundred deals a year. He has a big operation, spends hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. So he was talking on a video podcast, and he said, well, can you make money in California in real estate today? Well, yes. But are the returns down? Yes. Does it cost more on mailers? Yes. But what are the most effective things to do? And he goes, driving for dollars, knocking on doors. Where's Charlie? Knocking on doors. And then he said probate deals. And so some of the big guys that have these massive groups, massive companies with spending millions of dollars a year on mailers are talking about driving for dollars. Okay, and I went, well, we've been doing that for the last several years, and it works for us. So that's why we're such big proponents of Deal Machine. The other thing is bird doggers or just other wholesalers you work with, and that's really a major thing. So don't overlook partnering up, even on a deal. I recently, a gentleman I work with, I coach, I mentor, we did a deal a couple years ago, right before COVID. He got stuck in Mexico and Cuba during COVID. It was this long story, and he's back in town. He's now living in LA. He got us a deal, locked it up in San Fernando, coached him through it. We met last night, and as we're talking, he talked about this deal. He was literally driving up and down the street and found a gentleman living in his truck on a burned out property, and he's just kind of stuck. Guy's having health issues, he can barely stand, but living in a Chevy 1500, and trying to sell his house, or hopes to sell his house, and to buy a place out in the desert. So we signed the contract, did everything, got it done, and then we're helping him with his buyer's agent find him another place out in the desert. But he found out from driving for dollars. And also, I started telling Jim this earlier, he said, hey Evan, I noticed this one trust kept showing up on all these houses. And he called this woman, he located the trustee, or the owner, called her, and she hung up on him. And he says she has like 10 or 12 houses, only about 3 or 4 are occupied, the other are all empty, and she wants to sell them all at once. Can we handle that? I'm like, heck yeah! And we're talking between $3 and $5 million worth of property. So I'm talking to Jim, and I told this guy's name's Junior, he's a great guy. And I said, yeah, we could take it, lock it up, and then if we had to, we could sell them all individually, all at the same time. And Jim goes, are you kidding? We could just buy those. Let's do that deal. So I got to get back and deal with it. That's from driving for dollars. You won't get that necessarily from just sending out a list, okay? And then when he was driving, he met the caretaker on the property as well. So don't overlook that. The other thing I wanted to say when we talk about how we get deals, yeah, door knocking. Some people like Charlie are just absolutely great at door knocking. We've door knocked, especially when we don't do it like he does. If we're trying to get in touch with somebody, sending them mailers, trying to. So he was talking. Okay, sorry. That could have been embarrassing. Anyway, I'm like, what am I saying? Cool. Anyone hearing voices? Just me? Yeah. Buy real estate. Okay. But one of the things about it, I don't know where I was going with that a minute ago, but I'll start here, is one of the things we show is about relationship marketing. And that's something that big guys can't do. It's something you can't buy. It's like you being you promoting yourself, your brand, etc. Jim and I were at breakfast last week talking, and this is the type of thing I'm saying to do. And I talked about another time when we went to lunch, same place, and the waitress walked up, Jim sits down, and immediately within the first 1 minute, the waitress knows we're real estate investors. Jim used to work at the office next door and sold a couple of the people that worked at that place a home or found a home for him, etc. Within a minute or two, he'd already broached that, so they already knew. So we're sitting down talking about this event and shop in general, and we're talking, and a group of gals came in, about a dozen women came in and sat down right behind Jim. And as I'm talking to them, I realized that they're about to take a photo, and I could photobomb it. So as they're doing it, and it's to Jim's back, and they're about to take a photo, I lean over and go. They start laughing. Jim's like, hey, what's going on? And I go, hey, photobomb. So Jim jumps up, turns around, and starts grabbing them, and grabbing them in a way to take a photo with them. And we went over and took a bunch of photos with the gals. And then we sat down, and everyone laughed, and Jim goes to a bunch of realtors. I went, oh, okay. So we get back to talking, 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, they're like, hey, come back, we want photos with you guys. The other side of the table was taking photos. Instead of going this way, they're going to go that way. And the people have photos now want a picture with Jim and I. So Jim and I jump up, run to the other side, take photos. Right? So then Jim and I had walked one of his properties, which he's about to list at $1.3 million. And Jim says, hey ladies, you can help me sell my house. Here's the address, here's the thing. I'm a real estate investor, and I know one of you is gonna sell my house for me. And we start talking to them, and then we're real estate investors. I pull out my business cards, hi, how are you, etc. One's a notary, the rest were all agents. Now we could have just sat there and had our breakfast and talked, but we created by goofing off. I didn't know it would go that way. But again, just have fun with life. And it led to an opportunity to where we got out there more. And maybe one of them will bring his buyer. Maybe it'll be something down the road. Oh, and Jim goes, by the way, this guy, pointing at me, will even buy a house with a quadruple murder in it. And they're like, I go, yeah, it's our second home now. But yeah, I will, Do we need to clean it first? So that's kind of what we did, right? That was a great time, right? So you never know what's going to happen when we get together on that. But the point is that was actually working. That's marketing, and something may come from that. Maybe not now, maybe 5 years from now. Someone just asked on this other deal we just got, how'd you get that deal? And it was 6 years in the making. We had built a relationship. It was a pocket listing we were talking about, which is a listing an agent's going to get. It was a deal that an agent was going to get, decided not to put it out on the full MLS. She had it sold before it ever hit the MLS. She called me, interested in this deal, and the reason why I got that is I had just bought another house from her, and she had sold one of her flips years ago, and she found us a deal years ago. So it was this long process. So things you do today will pay off 5 years from now, okay? And if you're out of business in 5 years because you're not around, life got tough, you got a little tricky, you went a different trajectory, one of us is going to get that deal, okay? So just keep that in mind. So I wanted to just share that because we had a great time, and it was, again, pointing out something of don't be a secret real estate investor or a secret agent. Let everybody you know what you do, that you're the real estate person in your friends and family, etc., okay? Everyone understand?
Yes.
Got that? It's a huge thing, and you can't write a check and make that happen. That's something you can do, and it never goes out of style. It worked in the 1950s, it works today, and it'll work in 10 years from now. Okay? So I wanted to go over that. The other thing is, the other class, what we had done was on what to do with a lead. And so we have a sheet over here, like when we take someone makes a phone call, like yesterday I got a phone call from a gal who has a 2-unit in Barstow. We already bought a property out there. We were working on another deal on this street. She called and said, hey, you're sending me postcards. I'd love to talk to you about it. Now I'm playing phone tag with her. And But when that call comes in, she left the information, I put it in our CRM, which is Podio, got all the information, we sent postcards, we did this, and I asked for one of the team members, Rich or Angela, to put in a evaluation so I know what the value is, so I can call her back and talk a little more educated, with a little bit more education. And now we're just playing phone tag. So we would take that and then we'd start our process, and then we talked about some of the things, what we would say. So what I have over here, for those of you that didn't get one last time, I have some of the sheets, some of the questions we would use, some of the intake forms we used to use. I don't use them anymore. That's if you're talking to somebody as they call, what to say, how to say. If some of you feel you need a little bit of guidance, there's an intake form that just says how many rooms, how many bedrooms, what's the square footage, how big's the lot. I find that I used it a couple times and I didn't need it again. Just like I had said before, that if you were going to your friend's house and he said, hey, I just bought this house, you already know what to ask him. Really, what'd you get it for? How big is it? What's going on? Can I see it? You already know the things to say, but as soon as we're on the phone, we freeze up. Oh my God, and you like walk up. What's the difference? If your cousin called you and said, I bought a house, you'd say, tell me about it. It's the same thing. Don't get stressed out on it, okay? Just, everyone understand that? Yeah. Everyone see that? So we do have those if you want that help or that guidance, at least get an idea. So we find that can be of, like I said, just a great help for some people that want a little bit of an aid. Okay, maybe keep you a little more focused. Some people, we get a little scatterbrained. I am one of those, so it works and it's a detriment at times. First of all, is there any questions about any of this part? Any questions? Yes?
Which Podio version do you use?
The Podio version I use is Rich. What Podio version do we use?
You mean like plugins or comments on the top? Whatever the one that has the global flow connections on it. Whatever the premium. It's like $24, $30 per user, so I think we paid like $100 a month or something.
It's a global flow, is that what you said?
Yeah, it has the automation built in.
Automation built in global flow.
It's a program, it has the automation access.
Okay. Automation act, but you had to create it all. Yes. Yeah, you have to create it all.
I would never do it again.
Yeah, I want to hire someone to do it. And then we use, in how we run our business, Podio is how we bring all the intake in, but then we run it on an app called Slack. All of our projects, all the rentals, all of our mobile home deals, all of those we run on Slack, so that if someone asks me a question, she can see it, he can see it, our office can see it. Everyone can be involved, and they go, hey Evan, did you see this? It's been 4 hours, you haven't answered, or 12 hours, you haven't answered. And we kind of work together on that, so it kind of helps everyone stay on track. Okay, that's called Slack. Someone else had a question?
I was going to say on the Podio, there's guys on Fiverr that sell a complete investor packet with all everything you need for like $100.
And I would highly, highly recommend you pay it. That was probably the biggest waste of time I ever did.
Right.
Not a waste of time. I mean, it all works really well.
Right.
But I would have spent my time a lot better finding deals versus trying to figure out how to program Podio.
Yeah. So, I think you heard that. Never mind, you did hear that. Yes?
How do you spell Podio?
Podio.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question back here.
Yes, Asia.
At what point do you convert to a CRM? Like, how much is your lead generation to where you figure out you need a CRM or not?
In the beginning, I wouldn't even worry about it. Get some deals, get out there, get deals. You start doing 5-6 deals, then I would start worrying. I just wouldn't worry about it in the beginning. I'm just letting you know what we do. I use notebooks. I actually use notebooks, and then I wrote down, and my investors were in a notebook. I didn't Google, what's that? But yeah, you can use Google Contacts and put it in there and put tabs on and have email lists, and you can do a lot with Google. But I actually use notebooks. That's just what I started with.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, definitely.
You mentioned Deal Machine earlier. So if you guys are interested in Deal Machine, the club has like an affiliate link. It's dealmachine.ireic.org. And if you're looking for a CRM, they recently built one into Deal Machine. So it can kind of double up as a CRM. It's not super as advanced as like you can make Podio, but it's definitely enough that it'll track phone numbers. It has different like statuses you can put on leads, follow up with stuff. They have, like I said, a whole CRM built into it. So I just wanted to add that. Thomas?
My question is that I'm brand new. I don't know anything about real estate. And I hear what you're saying, but how can I get started as far as that's concerned? Because if I want to get started and I hear about the industry and I have no clue how it works, how polio works, what do you tell me to motivate me to get started?
Well, the one thing about how to motivate you to get started is that the motivational part's a whole nother thing. One of the things that when you want freedom or you want financial security, like you want air, it comes a lot easier because you've got to be willing to put some time in. When you work at your job, we all do, have that. You work an hour, you get paid an hour, work an hour, or work a week, you get paid. But this is you work, and then you get there's a paycheck. Sooner or later, you're going to get paid, depending on what you're doing. And then later, you're going to keep working, and then you're going to get another paycheck. So there's no guarantee in that. So on the motivation part, you know what I do for that? I read. There's podcasts I listen to, etc., but I read on that. But sometimes it's like some people aren't motivated to go to the gym. It's one of those things that we could talk about. But one of the things, you got to be your number one promoter. You promote yourself. You got to be your best friend in that, and you got to one of the things to be your best friend. So some of you, the way you talk to yourselves, if you had a friend that talked to you the way that a lot of people talk to themselves, you wouldn't have that friend. Okay, so you want to also be your number one promoter, your number one supporter, okay, and you need to do that. But as far as getting started, literally get out, off the butt, off the couch, get it in the car or walk the neighborhood. I was with someone yesterday at lunch. Robert, are you in here? Robert? Was at lunch, he was going to be here tonight. He says he finally got out and walked the neighborhood, walking his dog, and got a lead and meets with him next week. Okay? Walk your dog. He's done it, walking his dog. We did a deal, saw us, made $100,000 on it from walking his dog.
House I live in right now is a house that I went on my morning walk. I saw that somebody died in the house, and we paid half of the value of the house.
So walking the neighborhood. Again, a lot of you go, I want to scale, I want it really easy. Great, you can still do that. Talk to us, we'll tell you about what lists you can get and where to get them, etc. But there's a whole bunch of stuff to just getting off the butt and get out there and doing things, okay? Action. That action will also motivate you. Get a little success will also motivate you. You're not sure? Give me a call, I'll be glad to talk to you about that. Because it goes down to mindset. Yes?
How do you feel like Deal Machine compares to Prop Stream?
Deal Machine versus Prop Stream. I never use Prop Stream, but yes, Charlie. Yeah.
Over time with the Prop Stream, they have a lot of glitches, so I would just concentrate on what you guys are saying.
Well, I was going to say we used several. We had Property Radar, and before that it was Foreclosure Radar, and there was another one we had. I think we played around with 3 of them, and yeah, none of them were driving for dollars things. They were just different ways to buy lists and get them and check ARV and all the other stuff. Richard, do you want to add something to that?
I was just going to say that Deal Machine. So Deal Machine originally was like just straight driving for dollars. It annoyed the hell out of me for a little while that they were trying to add all these new features in and kind of got away from the driving for dollars part, but they have a CRM system, like I said, and now they have like a valuation thing a lot like PropStream. So like you literally drive past the house, you click on it, and it'll tell you, and you can pull comps, you can do a skip trace on them, and you can put it into a CRM system. So it's becoming kind of like a one-stop shop. If it's, I use it for like a quick overview. Like if I want to dive deeper, I think PropStream or some of the other ones give you a lot more data if you really want to dive deep into it. But I mean, the data, I don't have a whole lot of experience with PropStream, but we did use Property Radar for a while, which I think PropStream is very similar to. It's another tool. It doesn't hurt. If you want to, whatever it costs a month, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to have more data. So.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that part is, yeah, if you find it works for you, great. We're specifically going with Driving for Dollars, and what it was a game changer, because I was tired of writing a couple $1,000 to a check, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and getting 0 calls because it was getting so competitive. Or I would, and they were against 10 other people. I wanted to see there's a tarp on your roof. Hey, what could you tell me about that? You know, et cetera, as we're talking. I've literally been in a house, in a kitchen, she had a tarp as it's raining, trying to make sure, I'm like, this is gonna collapse on us, let's move over here, as I'm buying her other house, because she didn't want to sell that one because she lived in it, literally. And then we sold that one to a friend of ours, this other house, and we pocketed like $60,000. And we wanted to pick that house, and by driving by and seeing it, okay, versus just a massive list and you don't see all that, okay? So it's different. So people will say, hey, I noticed you took a picture of my house. And what can you tell me about that? I got a text today. Hey, here's the address of my house that you sent, but that's my neighbor's house, not mine. I'm not selling it. So, you know, you need to pay your people more. They took a picture of the wrong house. I think it was me that took the photo, but oh well, I screwed it up. But I got that. Yesterday I got someone calling me saying, please remove me from your list. And I said, okay, give me your address. She did. And she goes, you know, I'll keep your postcard in case I ever do decide to sell. I said, yeah, well, thank you. Bye. Okay. Yeah, another question?
Comment on finding, how to get started.
Yeah.
I think Andy Teasley, a member of this, has
Yep.
a weekend low-cost class on finding and flipping mobile homes, which easily translates to transitions to houses.
He's talking about Andy Teasley's mobile home class and doing money deals. I took that, and we still do that as a side business of ours. Highly recommend it. Yes. Oh, right here.
Yeah, just curious on how do you pierce the LLC? What tools do you recommend to find the real owner and how to contact them?
There's some of the questions you're going to find that when I was doing it before, they either lived there or they didn't. And if they didn't, I used to just set it aside and go off into low-hanging fruit. Later, I could say, Rich, could we track that down and go through all that? But and sometimes we find them, sometimes we didn't. But I know LLCs are registered with the California State Department of Secretary, thank you. And they have to have an address on there. You can send a mailer there and go knock on their door. You know?
The only time that doesn't work is if they're registered like a third-party agent. But that's just an office. It's really hard to track those down. But if it's just you registered your LLC to your house, that makes it really easy.
There is one way to get get a response if you really need it. Honestly, go hire the guy next to you and say, go put the sign, I buy houses, in the front yard of that house. You'll get a phone call. You will. You'll get a phone call. I had someone accidentally do that, and I don't know where the house was. I got calls forever going, is that house for sale? I'm like, what house? They kept giving me some weird address. It was crazy. I got it for 2 years. I had a phone call of a house. I had no idea where it was. Seriously. People call, crazy. So, but I know someone that has done that to get someone to call. Just saying. Yeah.
Hi, so I'm brand new to the REI.
Mm-hmm.
So the question I have is, how would you identify where to start driving? As far as, not in your immediate area maybe, but do you go by zip code or do you?
I'm going to, I'll tell you what, I'm going to answer that, and I'll bring Jim up here as soon as I answer it so he could add into that. And I go where I was comfortable. I first, though, a couple miles from my house where I used to live in, where my kids still did with my ex, I knew that neighborhood. So, I saw a house for sale, because I remember when I started, the market was different. Saw something on MLS, I knew the area, bought the house, and bought again. Then later, I got a lead. My other son told me about a deal in Victorville. Once I was in that neighborhood, I started looking around, got a deal, and then kept in that neighborhood because it was a lower price point, and it worked. So Andy Teasley will teach. You got to be able to bicycle near it. I think Pete Fortunato wants to do it he wants to be able to walk to it or bicycle to it as well. You find what works for you. If I was willing to drive for an hour one way for a boss, I was willing to drive an hour for myself. That was my attitude. So everything we try to do is on the 15 corridor. We go 15, kind of out to the 215, and that's our bread and butter. That's where 90% of our stuff is, and that's what we did. And And Jim, you want to come on up and we'll start this, and then maybe I take another question, and then we'll start on walking a house. First of all, I want to say, Jim and I, when I started, Jim was a mentor at the club.
I'm old.
Yeah, no, yeah. No, and I saw this guy doing a lot of deals, and I was like, wow. I started picking his brain. I pick his brain. The guy knows. He knows. He's very generous with his time, knows a lot of stuff. He's showing houses that he rebuilt from the ground up, and I'm like, oh, geez, you know, how'd you do that? How did you get past this? And he's talking about these. And one of the things that we're going to go into, he'll talk about, because I'm going to talk about when you see a deal and look for the extra value. And when we get there, he'll talk about your Maryland house.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you got to talk about that. But one of the things that we are going to talk about tonight, the main thing, is how to walk a house. What would scare me now from buying a house? What do I look for? What does Jim look for? Jim has a lot more experience than I do with this. But what's going on in my thinking when I'm walking a property? But I wanted to say, when I started, I didn't have the club. I was using agents, and so every property I bought, I went to we went and got a home inspector. So I actually hired a company, and eventually found this guy, which was ASR Consulting. We're friends today. His name's Tony. And this guy kind of educated me as I walked a property, because I didn't know any better. Yes?
Sorry, I was just going to ask you if you guys could do each like 30 seconds on who you are, what got you started.
Gotcha.
For people in here that don't know.
All right, tell you what, Jim, you go ahead.
Well, my name is Jim Keller. I've been actively investing since 2012. I've juggled as many as 30 homes at one time. These are all flips. I don't usually keep houses. I've gone. At one time, I had a deal in Palm Springs, San Antonio Heights and Upland, Marietta, and Westminster. So that was at one time, and that was a hell of a 4 months, I can tell you. And then there was 25 other jobs going on while those were going on. So it was a really intense time, but it's possible. It's possible. It's funny, Todd Dominguez is standing over there. I remember watching Todd. We were on a house, or I went to a house in Brea, and he just showed up, and he did exactly what you're talking about. He pulled out his computer, and now Todd's got deals that he's working every day. So it's possible. It's a big learning curve, and I guess my introduction is I would love to share all this with you. I sat where you guys are at for almost 20 years, saying, I'm gonna, and I didn't. So you can choose to do it now, or you can choose to do it later.
And again, I'm Evan Brown. I started investing in 2009, but full-time in 2015. I started off buy and holds, and we had a bunch of rentals. Wasn't making a lot of money. Kind of retooled it. Went full-time. Sold some deals, started flipping, and for lifestyle, and then started taking all that money and started investing that into rentals. We were able to quit our jobs, and then we just kept flipping for lifestyle, and then taking every dime that we made and every dime she made as an agent, and started buying more rentals, and just keep doing that loop, and that's just what we keep doing. And it's worked for us, and like I said, been 7 years full-time now, and when I left our job, she left 4 months after I did. She didn't like working there without me, and it's been great. So I love working with my best friend.
Didn't you love when they brought the couple up, and she goes, I'm jobless! And she like raised her hand, her foot went up in the air.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I'm here for that. Like just that one thing, I'll tell my daughter, I'll tell my wife, I'll tell all my friends about the excitement that I saw in you, because we all been there.
Yeah. You know what? That's one of the things about, like you said, about the excitement. You have no idea. If you remember your first deal, the first deal you made, you put money in your pocket, the first one that paid off, that you're just like, yes, it works. I did this. And that feeling, I remember I was actually wiping down the countertop in this street on 9th Street in San Bernardino, wiping it down as the realtor came in and sold me the place. And I'm smiling, Angela's there. I did a lot of work on it myself. I drove out there and did a lot of work at night. And I hired my daughter to tape off baseboards while she was pregnant. She was pregnant with our granddaughter at the time. She was looking for work, I was like, well, you can do this. Hired my other son to come and organize my tool chest when we were doing that. But anyway, I'm excited for those of you about to get started because it's that first time. And as excited as we get on a deal now, there's something special about those first deals. I got my first subject to last year, first seller financing deals. Those are brand new. Those were great for me. I hadn't got those before. So we'll talk about those on another time. But anyway, real quick, tips on walking a property. I recommend in the beginning, if you're going to buy something that you're going to like rent out or short-term rental and it's in an area that maybe you don't know, yeah, you could call someone in the club. Absolutely, a friend that's a general contractor, great. Call Jim, call me if we can. We'll see what we can do to help. But there's something to be said, these guys are licensed to walk through and look at a property and tell you, well, if you buy this, the entire neighborhood drains through the property. So you're going to have a flooding problem. By the way, I bought a house last year, and the house next door is that house. Literally, the drainage goes underneath this mobile home on land until the Army Corps of Engineers changed some of the flow up to where it goes a little bit left of the house, and I'm not joking. And that's our place. Now,
so I'm in the middle of buying land right now, and I found out that Army Corps of Engineers and BLM have an active website that you can go to that'll have all of your properties, and it'll tell you which direction water sheds off your property. It'll tell you, literally, it's out there. So this can, I love the question about Podio. Which brand of Podio, which version of Podio? If you want to take it to that level, it's available for you to do that.
So I just wanted to point out that, again, when we started, we didn't know any better. So we used a home inspector to do that. Today, I don't use them. I don't use them anymore. But if you are doing your first flip or you're buying a rental and you've never seen a home inspection report, I have about 5 or 6 over here you can look after just so you can deal with it. Because when you go to sell that house, that first flip, you do that, and you have a seller going to come back and the buyer's going to ask you for $7,000 in repairs, and you're like, why? They're going to say, well, I'll read the inspection report. And you're going to go, what's that? Well, come over here, take a look at it, your questions. They're designed really to protect the inspector, and you're going to find that most of it is, hey, I see this, I'm not sure about it, check with a licensed roofing contractor. Well, I'm not sure about this, check with a licensed plumbing contractor. The whole thing is that. But it's still good to kind of read between the lines and see what they're about. But do I use them anymore? No.
Can here's a good hot tip. Do any of you know a home inspector? Why don't so you got a great insurance man back there. I love, everyone should use him, by the way. Everyone should use him. Okay, he says he has a friend who's a home inspector. You ought to call him up and you ought to say, introduce me to your home inspector, and you ought to take him to breakfast, and then you ought to get in his car and you ought to do 10 or 12 inspections with him and just sit and listen to what he does. Help him take the pictures, pull the ladder out for him, and then maybe buy him like a bottle of tequila or something. Because if all of you do that, it's going to save you $375
each time.
Because each inspection costs that amount of money.
Right.
So that's the workaround that this meeting will do for you.
And just today, Stephanie was telling us that they actually just backed off the deal because she realized that when the home inspection report came out, this is out of state though, is this local? This one's out of state, so she had that. That's really when it come in handy as well. But the point is, they realized the deck repairs would be far more than they were willing to take on. There was some other issues with drainage, like a leak somewhere in the bathroom. And it could start adding up, and you get an idea. It's not that that you stop buying the property or you don't. It's so you go in with your eyes wide open and you're aware. That's all. It's really all it's about. It's okay to buy something that, fire damage, as long as you know that it is. You don't want to be the one that bought the house, it looks beautiful, you buy it, you close, you walk around the back, and the entire back half of the house is gone. It happens. Not to me, but it happens. So yeah. So one of the things I first do when I pull up, I look at it and go, is it a nice neighborhood, like an A, B, C neighborhood? As an A for a nicer house, B, a pretty good C, or is it a war zone? Why does that matter? I started off with a lot of my properties in war zones. More break-ins. When you're working on it, you might have someone come and steal your dishwasher every time. You turn around, it does happen. We have a property in a rural area right now, and we're paying someone $100 a week to live in their RV on the property, and we have cameras, because after we bought it, someone came along and took a 40-foot container right off our property.
I think that sounds cheap. I paid $1,500 a month over on Railroad and Adams in the CB. We did about $11,000 worth of damage. 4 or 5 different times. There was this really crazy lady who had a real great style to her. She would bring Home Depot carts and put them in shapes and arrange trash on the ground. And she brought a refrigerator into the backyard. This is all on her own. So on the third time we finally got her arrested. But the point is, it's $1,500 a month I paid to have a family come in and.
We were doing a deal in Old Town Riverside. Beautiful home, just beautiful. It was 100 and something. I think it was our biggest flip at the time, $115,000. Someone broke into it. So I went over there and caught someone coming out of it, and then it was a couple. They were walking out, I was just walking in, and next thing you know, I started brandishing a knife on me. There was three of us. We could have, because her boyfriend took off and left her there, and she brandished a knife, and it was a Bowie knife. And I was a second degree black belt in karate, and there was three grown men. But the second that came out, I was like, you know what, it's not worth it. Go ahead and go. I was just delaying until the police came.
I'm kind of bummed you didn't go, that's not a knife, this is a knife.
No, I didn't. But the thing is, she did find, they did know her and they did arrest her, and she did get, I think 14 minutes in jail.
Hey, Evan, I don't mean to interrupt, but hey guys, I spent 1 year $5,000 on those damn cameras, not Ring, but one of the other manufacturers. My phone would not stop going off. Okay, exactly. You know what? I sold them all on off-road for, I think, $1,000. I had like 8 or 9 systems. Get smart about what you're doing. Don't leave dishwashers on property. Don't do it. And then when the property's done, you got to be diligent about maybe you get someone to stay there. But be smart. Don't guilty. I've been ripped off more than my share. But every time it's because I do something stupid. I overstay my welcome. Every time.
We had one of our crew's brother come in and steal stuff. Yeah, we found out, and then...
Wait a minute, you've had employees steal from you? I can't believe that's ever happened.
No, yeah, it's amazing.
That's never happened to me.
And the soon-to-be ex-wife called and tattled on him. So, it's crazy. Yeah. We went to pawn shops to get our stuff. Like, hey, do you got any of these? And like, no. So once I found out exactly what and where, I went back with them. I dragged them back there and says, "You now want to talk again?" And they handed me my stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, it's still worth it though. I'm telling you, these are just some of the stuff. So, but one of the things though is you do have that happen where people come in and they steal things. It just does. We have like cameras on several properties right now. We normally don't, but on certain ones, we will do it.
Yeah, we're just touching the fun things.
Yeah,
these are like, guys. The best part about the business is there's always an opportunity. When I walked in, I was talking to the guys over here, and I was saying, hey, tonight it's windy. You're going to come home. Your fence is going to be blown over. Well, what the hell? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to put together a list. You're going to call your insurance man. You're going to do these things. So this is really what we're talking about, okay? And yes, it's usually a home, and there's a lot of kind of scary things going on inside of it. But for the most part, if you take a breath, like, you know, I like to laugh. I think this is, I love coming to the club because it's kind of, if you can't make this fun, like you're probably not a fun person, okay? So just smile a little bit, you know? Like everybody is so concerned about this.
Don't get too serious.
Oh, no. But I mean, look at this building that we're in right now. You know, I see like all this horrible wire that I see over here. I see all of this stuff. I don't like it. And this is something that I see.
I didn't even notice it.
That's like that's an eyesore for me, okay? And I automatically react to it. But what I know is the electrical that's servicing, or the electrical that's servicing right there, it's probably going to cost thousands of dollars for them to move it, or it might cost $100, and it's just an expense they don't want to have. But when I'm walking the house,
next time Jim won't be speaking.
No, but when I'm walking the house, that's really all I'm doing. Okay. So today we've got we're putting the finishing touches on a home. I've got 12-foot ceilings. I've got this beautiful light fixture that costs more money than I ever thought I'd pay for a light fixture that's being hung. And what we figured out is that if the light hangs down right over the table, a chair, a bar stool, and a massive quartz countertop, there's not enough room for one of the chairs. So my contractor was pissed this morning because I had to make the phone call and say, hey, I need this moved over 2 feet. And then it's like, okay, are we gonna pierce the drywall, or are we just gonna put a cap over the existing thing? You understand? There's a lot there.
There's always going to be an issue.
Yeah.
They just always are.
And when you're walking these properties, yeah, and so I'm on the phone with my wife because she's in charge. Honey, if I pierce the drywall's never going to look the same. If I put a cover over it, it's going to look like the fire suppression system. I'm voting for the cover. And that's what the contractor wanted to do too. Okay? But the same thing holds true for what you guys are doing when you're out in the field and you're talking to people and you're looking at property. You're noticing the wires and you're making a judgment right away.
Right.
Like if your job is to value add a piece of real estate, so you're going to pay $2 million for this building right here, and if you think you can sell conventions or whatever this is called, events, okay, and that's not going to work for you, that would be the first thing I would try to figure out how to change. And so maybe I don't fix something else on a higher level. But the whole point is that you instinctively know. Am I crazy when I talk like
no,
that? I mean,
you're a little ahead of where I
yeah, you instinctively know these things.
Yes, Rich.
I just had a quick question. Like, do you guys do like things in a certain order, or you just kind of look around, see what you notice, or is there like a checklist, or?
Well, I mean, I know we talked about a checklist that, listen, I think we've all worked off of a checklist, and I would recommend, well, you know, my good friend Todd back there, that was what, 6 pages, I think that checklist was? And I know the checklist, it's a Fortune Builders checklist, you can Google the thing. Like all of you can Google the Fortune Builders checklist, and it's really cool because it says painting, and then you use there's already a number per square foot that is entered. So if you put in the house is 1,600 square foot and you put a 1, it's going to paint the multiple of times per square foot, and that's how the number is going to come up. So if your painter is like, you know, a great painter and he can do it for a little less, you can make the number lower, or you can say, instead of a 1 number, you can say 0.95 or 0.75, and you can make that number go up or down. So I used to use a checklist on everything I do. Now I go in and I kind of get off on going, $208,000.
Yeah, after a while, you start getting a feel for what you're dealing with.
Often I'm wrong though.
Won't go in. But one of the things we also will talk about when I pull up to a house is, does it have curb appeal? Is it a flat roof? Is it a gable roof? One of the things, I own some houses with flat roofs. Every flat roof I've had, I don't care. Long-term, I am having leak problems. The building we used to work in was flat roof. We were always dealing with it. It's just one of the things, you don't see a lot of them out here. Nothing wrong with them. I just know that if I'm going to have as a rental, I'm going to have a higher maintenance cost. But again, it's just one of those things that you just want to be aware of. And I know that someone just built a really nice house. I think it has a flat roof now I'm thinking about it. But so if you do it right, you can delay it, but it seems water doesn't, you want water to shed. Roofs are meant to shed water. And
that flat roof costs $22,000. It's some special, surfer flat roof.
It looks great. It should cost.
Okay, so every house you walk that has a lean-to, does everyone know what a lean-to is? A lean-to. This is the house, there's a roof that comes off, there's a beam here, there's usually like a patio room or something like that. Everyone know what I'm talking about? Every house that has that probably has rolled roofing on it, okay?
But it's like a 3-inch, it's gotta be with 3 inches with, is it anything less than 3 and a foot that, you have to go to rolled roofing?
Correct. So virtually every one of these lean-tos, I think it's 3 and 12, okay? But every one of these lean-to has a rolled roof on it, okay? Folks, purchased a beautiful home in Westminster for $480,000, made an amazing purchase. The house had a massive, they were using it as a living room. I converted it to another room. The point is, closed escrow, got a phone call, after the next big rain, the roof was leaking. And like a dunce, like a guy who knows what he's supposed to do and it just didn't do it, we didn't change it. So I ended up having to pull the roof. I didn't own the house. I would have lost the lawsuit. I was smart enough to know that. So I just preemptively did what I should have done in the first place. So,
and just so you know, everyone, a gable roof, we're talking about a roof with a pitch. It has a point like a tent, right? So water comes down, sheds, whether it's tile, Mediterranean, cement, whatever. Versus literally a flat roof or a roof, like he says, it might have a slope to it. I have a duplex that the front looks straight in the front, you go to the side, and the house has a slope to it. And I'm having an issue right now, even with a new roof on it. It's just.
And so you'll see all of this when you walk on the property and you see, because usually what will happen is there'll be, like if the wall's here and there's a shed roof that comes off here, on the edges you'll see all kinds of, I would call it schmegma, just all kinds of, usually the paint's deteriorated, usually the wood is rotten. And if the wood is rotten and the paint's chipped, that should be like an alarm in your head that goes, ding, 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 ding. This is deferred maintenance that has been neglected. That's why you're buying for 40% of value, or 40% off, is because of this neglect. Now your job is to mediate or mitigate that defect. That's what's gonna make you really successful. So you're walking the job, you're seeing all of these little problems. Again, mitigation opportunity, okay? Same thing with the things that are rotten, and all of this stuff is stuff you can actually see with your eyes.
And you also, if you go to the side of the house, look up and see if you can see if it's 1 layer, 2 layer, 3. You see this of roofing, you'll know what I see with flaking, you'll see that it's several layers. We've seen 5 layers on a house and it's illegal. You can't go more than 3 max on some and 2 on others.
And there's a reason there's 3 roofs, it's because the 2 underneath leak.
Yep.
Okay? So there's a
piece. If you see a roof that's undulating, it's doing this. It's usually because it's a roof, it's shingles over another roof that's really bad over another one, and you start seeing that, it looks bad, and usually those, just take it off and just know you're going to be putting a new roof in.
So there's a piece of metal you'll
just
see.
Bought a house with that roof on, by the way.
Yeah, there's a piece of metal. There's a piece of metal on roofs. I'm sorry, guys, my drawing is horrible.
No, that's great.
So you got roof number 1, number 2, and number 3. And then you got a piece of metal, and the metal is what I'm trying to show you guys. This is a great tip. The metal has a box quality to it. And the reason they have this little, so most metal on a metal roof goes like this, and then it's got a little thing at the bottom, and that's so the water is moved away from
it throws it away.
The fascia board. You guys didn't know we were talking construction. That's the way a new roof looks like, okay? But this right here, this little lip right here that's built in, it's there to hide the 3 layers of roofing. okay?
So if you can't see from the front, go to the side of the house.
And when I see that, I know I need a new roof.
And one of the things
Unless it's brand new.
And we're saying, we're not saying don't buy the house. Geez, that's just, now you go, oh, you having a roofing issue? And they're like, yeah, well, we just put a new roof on. It's like, yeah, you put it over the old roof. And then you put it over that roof. And so
now what are we talking about? Now we're talking about probably, so go into the garage, and you know what space sheeting is? Okay? Space sheeting would be, you see how these are rafters, these round things? Space sheeting is usually 1x4 that runs this direction, and there's usually a space. It's usually like 2 or 3 inches. Okay? You cannot put composition roof on space sheeting, so you have to buy plywood. If your house is 1,800 square feet, you'll need 40 sheets of plywood. How much does plywood cost today? Yeah, it's $2,000 at the store. Now you got to get it here, you got to get it up on the roof, you got to pay to have a guy install it. So this right here, this little thing right here, and if the roof absolutely does need to be done, it means a tear off, which is what? $1,500 to tear a roof off?
$1,500 extra.
Yeah, so now it's $1,500 to tear the roof off, which, by the way, they're going to ruin all the plants and all the landscaping.
But the point is, again, you use this to negotiate with the seller.
Well, there you go.
So it's just so you're aware. You don't want to buy and go, oh, I didn't know I have to now budget in a roof. My numbers now don't work.
And they already know this. That's why you're here. They already know it.
They know it. They're
just remind them. You're ugly. That's why I don't want to,
One of the things, that's why what you want to do is, if you're talking to them on the inside, like you're talking to a seller, go into the worst room and do your final negotiating.
I love that the tarp is over your head.
Yeah. I gotta go back to her and see if she wants to sell that house.
This is such a nice house. Why do you want to sell this?
I can't say that. I'm like,
nice.
Yeah.
I think Charlie got me in a house in Paris one time, and the door was closed off, and we finally forced our way in, and you could see the stars.
Yeah.
So there was the hole in the roof. The water had ruined the drywall, and now it was all on the floor. So,
yeah, fair enough. Also, when we start talking about, what's the house made out of? Is it an older 1800s, Sears house, or is it have cement fiberboard on it? Is it cinder block? I currently have a property right now it's cinder block. I've had several over the years. And while it's virtually indestructible, on one hand, it's great because tenants can't put their fist through it. They only try once, and that's the last time they try. It's harder for them to hang things, etc. But we had an issue before with a cinder block. So you want to know this when you're doing it. I had an issue before where I thought I had a slab leak. I had a tenant, and they came in, and they said, Evan, there's water on the floor. And I sent one of my guys over there, and he goes, oh yeah, Evan, we got a slab leak. And then I sent a licensed plumber over there, leak detection service. They go, you don't have a slab leak. What we had was an airflow issue. You had people inside the house with a couple of docs that stayed in the house with modern windows and modern doors to where there's no airflow, had maybe the heater off or barely running, and the humidity between outside and inside would take the humidity and then put it on the wall. You could walk in the house and wipe the side of the house. Well, until we said, crack the windows, do this, turn the heater up, problem went away. And I had that for several more years. And I'm kind of doing the same thing right now because I had someone just moved in, their family's visiting, there's 11 people in a 3-bedroom now. And they're having, hey, we have this water on the wall. I walked into the wall, touched it, and I already knew. And so now there's a moisture problem in a couple areas and we're dealing with that. But you just want to know what you have. We bought a 3-unit in Barstow before, and I didn't know that the siding that covered the entire back house was all asbestos. I didn't know. I bought it because I only paid $40,000, and I did have the inspector, and I used the inspector after we bought it. It was just in asbestos. So we painted it, we left it alone. I later resold it, and so we never touched it. We just
good move.
Yeah,
mold remediation. It's very expensive.
Yeah. So
you covered it. So
no. On the other, this was a different property with the asbestos, we left that. That was external. It was just siding. We painted and leave it alone. In the previous duplex, we didn't paint it. We just made sure they had proper airflow, made sure they ran the heater more, and opened up cracked windows more, and the problem went away. They just lived in the house so much and hardly went out, and with all the dogs and the people and the small little thing, it was in Victorville, a certain time of year, this would happen. It happened the first year, and it took us a month to figure it out.
Crazy things happen in Victorville.
Well, that too.
I can say that with experience. My personal opinion is, unless you have flipped multiple homes before, anything that has, if it's made entirely of block, you might want to really take a hard look at that, bring in someone that knows what they're doing. The front house on a custom house in a building, I own the house out in front of it, and it was block, and there was some crazy connection. It was my plumber screwed up. And now I lost contractors in the middle of this deal, so everyone pointed at each other. But it wasn't connected, and there was a lot of damage, and it cost me, I think, I paid almost $10,000 to basically give these people a new bathroom, again, after it closed. So I know all of you are saying, well, that'll never happen to me, but take my word for it, that's the business.
Yeah, so again, it's just one of those things that to just know that there's certain things that you're going to have running electrical conduit when you have a cinder block house and you want to run it behind the walls. That's a little tricky.
If you get permits on a house, okay, the code says there has to be an electrical outlet every 11 feet, I think it is. Every 11 feet, and it has to be 6 foot from a corner. So for instance, this wall, well, this is a commercial building, it's not a residential place, but there would have to be a plug on this wall, and then there'd have to be one over here, and one over here, and if this is CMU, if this is block, how do you get it there? How do you get it there? Yeah, you go through the top and you fish it down. I mean, I don't know, ordinarily, I would look at that and I would say, oh, there's $700 worth of electrical, I'll be fine. But there is $700 worth of electrical. There's another $1,500 in repairing the CMU. Anyway, you get the picture.
Or if it's a $150,000 house in Victorville, you run the conduit outside, punch it through and bring it in, you do that. Or you do the internal tracking, the external tracking on the inside if you're only going this far. We've done it. And
sounds like a pro. Sounds like you know what you're doing.
But I wouldn't do that in $1 million house. But it wouldn't be cinder block then. Anyway, just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Just understand that old siding can have asbestos, especially if it's pre-1978, 80, what's some?
78.
78, okay. So just understand that. Again, it's one of those things, as long as you don't disturb it.
No, I think that's big. That's big. As long as you don't disturb it.
You'll see it a lot in a heat wrap pipe, like with an old heater. And we've done it where the heater's gone, the pipe's still there running 2 stories up, and we've actually framed out and made a box just to keep it in. So no one ever sees it. It's not there. You can't break it. You can't.
It's gray and it's fibrous.
Yeah, you can kind of.
Do you know what I'm talking? Does any like if you go in your garage? Yeah, if you go in your garage and you look at the pipe that's over your water heater, it's probably it.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
A foundation, and one of the things is it raised or is it slab? If you have a concrete slab foundation, and there's cracks in it. If there's under a 1/4 inch, you might see an 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch. That's not uncommon. You see a 1/4 inch, that's when you start going. If it's more than a 1/4, like a 1/2 inch, you got a real problem there. Plus, are they in straight lines? One of the things we've seen in the mountains a lot is, and even the deserts, is when there's a big chimney, and sometimes it starts sinking down or it starts pulling away because you start having settling problems. And one thing, it's okay to buy the house, just so you are aware of it. Rich and I we kept trying to buy this house in Lake Arrowhead, not Lake Arrowhead, Crestline, with I forget what size that chimney was, but it was like 3 stories tall, this old rock, like river rock, and it was from here to that screen wide, and they estimated the weight, and it was literally breaking through the ground, and the room next to it was just broken up, and we were like, just to remove that gave us pause, and we couldn't get the price right. We looked at it like 5 times, and someone else came along and bought it. I think and they removed it. Oh, it's still sitting there. Yeah, they probably just bungeed it back together. But that thing is, when it goes, it's, yeah, not good.
And it's really important because all of you are sellers and you have to sign a piece of paper that says if you've made repairs, you have to put your name on it essentially. Now, you know, I know the law very well. I've been doing this a long time. There are very specific things you want to say and not say. I take like I don't want to talk to the neighbors about the condition of the house. Again, I've got this place. It's over in Corona. I'm negotiating with the neighbors to tear this tree down, and they start telling me about the mine that's in the hills, and every time the explosion goes off, it shakes the house. And I'm sitting there going, oh damn, and now I have to disclose that. Because I'm aware of it, because I'm telling you guys right now what's going to happen is the new owner is going to go talk to the neighbor, and the neighbor's going to go, man, that explosion this morning was intense, and my guy is going to go, there's an explosion? And he's going, yeah, I told the owner about it, and I'm going to get sued. Okay, so the fireplace that you're talking about, these are important decisions, and although I hate telling anyone to walk from a deal, so yeah, I said walk from the CMU. The block homes, they're hard to figure out. If I saw a fireplace like what you're talking about, dude, there's another deal tomorrow to be had. Yeah, I don't want to mess with it.
That's the point. Just because something is a deal doesn't mean you have to do it. But one of the things, we were going to talk more at the very end on that, but he's talking about the disclosures, and yes, when you're going to flip that first house, and we're talking about that earlier, and an inspection report, there's something in they're going to ask you, if you repaired this, is any of this defective, any of it not working? And that's when you say what you know. So when the neighbor comes and tells you, oh, by the way, did you know someone was murdered in that last year? And you're like, you didn't know? Well, if you didn't know, you didn't know. But now you know, you now need to put in there. And then there's a catch-all. There's a question they'll specifically ask you a bunch of stuff. And one of the questions is there a defect in any of this stuff? And that's a very specific legal term. And so I'm not a licensed expert to say that's a defect. I can say, hey, it's broken, it's patched, we fixed it. Big difference, okay? So just so you know, because you don't know what a defect is. But there's a catch-all question that says, is there anything that the new buyer may want to know that you haven't previously disclosed? It's a catch-all. Like, you know you're in a fight with the neighbor who's crazy, who keeps doing this, the whole neighborhood knows, and you don't disclose it then? You're going to have
and mine says that I have never lived in the property. I have no knowledge of any defects on the property, and I recommend they hire a professional to help them understand what the deal is on this deal, on the home. And in fact, I'll even give you $500 to hire an inspector, because I want the judge, when I'm in court, to see that at every turn I tried to help them, because I'm a professional, and the buyer, he might be an accountant or a lawyer or whoever he is, but he's just a dumbass. That's who he is. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's not a professional.
At the end of this, those who want to ask, ask me about a 3-unit that I got sued over in Victorville, and the inspection report and the credit repair we gave him is what saved us, but we still went to mediation, and we still won, but even when you win, you lose. But, so understand, that's why an inspection report can help, especially when it was a buyer's inspection report. So, and anyway, we'll talk more about that. One of the things about the foundation is, like I said, the cracks, or if it's uneven floors. We do a lot of stuff in the mountains. If you walk through a house and you notice every door doesn't shut right, okay, every door, well, you've got some shifting going on. A lot of times you'll walk through a house and see cracks on the door jambs. That's another tip. I've seen it in the desert on other rentals we've had. We want to know, just so you have an idea what's going on. We've patched foundations. We've had people walk from deals that we were selling because there's a crack in the foundation that was barely there, and they just freaked out. They didn't know, and the home inspection scared them, and we would fix it or just say, we'll give you a credit for $2,000, and the next buyer would say, no problem. So,
Yeah, I bought a house from New Western Acquisitions. I don't know if any of you guys know them. They're a wholesaler in town. A lot of people went to look at this property. Everybody was hot on it until they all determined, oh, the front of the house is 4 inches. So the foundation had cracked back here and over here. So 16 feet back and like 8 feet back. So my contractor at the time was very good at these kinds of repairs. So he's like, oh, we'll go back, we'll drill, we'll put an apparatus on the foundation, we'll fill in the existing floor, we'll level it all out. You'll still see that it's wrong because in this corner, the ceiling's gonna be 7'10", not 8 foot, okay? But I repaired it and so he knew he could do that repair. So then my job was to go out and find an engineer that could sign off on the repairs that we had planned on making. And so it took a while. It cost around $800, but I have an engineer signed it off. So it's not Jim or his filthy contractor making these decisions. It's the engineer that put his signature. I paid $800 for his signature. And sure enough, at the end of the deal, it was a known defect. So when the house was listed before, they had already said that there was foundation troubles. So we knew we had to do that. So we gave that when we accepted the seller's offer, we sent the engineering report with the seller's offer. Like I wanted to head them off at the pass. And in the end, they were backing up on us. And we ended up, I think I had to give them something, I don't remember what, but the point is just like Stephen Covey says, I began with the end in mind. I knew this was gonna be the biggest hiccup, okay? I mean, and because of that, I paid $800 to have some guy sign a piece of paper on my idea. But anyway.
So again, this is the stuff that when you walk property and you start seeing it, it'll start coming. You'll just walk and go, I used to go in there and quote out a room on how much this will cost to rehab. Now we know it's about $40 a square foot or $60 a square foot for complete rehab. We're doing one right now in the mountains. I think it was $80 a square foot. I think we were just factoring in. That was with everything, a lot of stuff on. But
I like that though. I like, and I think that's a great tip. So it's a 1,500 square foot house, $60 a foot is, what is that, 90 grand? Yeah,
we used to use $10 a square foot, used to $20 a square foot, and $30 for a bigger flip, so a 1,000 square foot house, $10,000 like carpet and paint, but it's now much higher.
So for 90 G's on a 1,600 square foot house, you're gonna put a new roof in, you're gonna put new windows in, you're gonna put a new heating and air conditioning system in, you're gonna put a new kitchen, 2 new bathrooms, new flooring, new doors.
And sometimes there's in the mountains, we just did like a $20,000 deck. So
well, there you go.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff that you have. And another one we did, we had 3 roofs we had to do. There was a carriage house, there was a garage, and there was the house itself. We had to take off the 3 or 5 roofs that were on, redo each one. So you have this. Again, it's important why you need to buy it right and know, not be surprised. It's really what all this is about. It's not to scare. We can kind of laugh on some of them, but what it is so that you are aware. So you go, oops, we didn't realize that there was a septic, and because, but there's a septic that's not going to work, and we're actually within 200 feet of a sewer, so guess what? We now have to connect and spend $11,000. And connect to a sewer. And that is cheap. We had one for $40,000, but I won that argument. And on another one, we sold it to another investor who was willing to tackle that. So again, but not knowing is the biggest thing. How do you know? A quick way? Well, just look on records. So if you have a sewer bill, and if not, if you have a septic and you're buying a beat up house and you're like, well, they haven't pumped it in 15 years, ask them. Now you know you're probably going to have a problem, and then go look. You can go on Google Earth if you don't see it, and look for a sewer, a manhole cover in the street, and find out if it's within 200 feet. Because if it's within 200 feet and you have a bad septic, the licensed contractor, when they come in, they call dig alert. Dig alert comes in, and some places they notify the city, go, they want to put a septic in, and you'll get a call or a letter from the city going, you can't put a septic, you got to connect to the sewer. And it's better to know that before you buy the house, or at least anticipate it instead of going, I got $40,000 bill, there went my budget, my profit.
Call the water company. Every sewer is, for the most part, administered through the water company of any particular area. If it's not, you have to call the city. Just call the city. Listen to me. I made this mistake.
Well, one thing, but if it's a septic, if there's a septic, you might be just putting septic. If there's a sewer in the street within 200, you have to switch unless you get an exclusion, which I've done, but it's not easy.
Yeah, I just mean from day in and day out. Like tomorrow, I hope all of you have a home to go look at, okay? And if one of you determine, hey, this is a maybe, one of your calls on your checklist is to the water department of the city to find out, is it on septic? I personally had to buy a septic system for somebody one time because I said it was on sewer, because I own 3 houses in a row, and 2 of them were on sewer, and the one that I said was on sewer was on septic, and it was a cesspool.
Hey, someone write this down, ask us about that and that type of problem when we're done, okay? We'll try to have a minute to go into that type of thing, what to do. Because Jim and I talked about the other day, and he said something, he goes, that's exactly the right thing to do, and I had done the same thing. And it's one of those things you wonder, well, it's the right thing, but it's costing money. We'll talk about that. That was specifically that thing. I mentioned the drainage again. I had a friend that grew up with a house that the entire backyard drained into the kitchen every time it rained. Because I'd go spend the night, and there'd be, because we're best friends, at 11 and 12 years old, and we were literally shoveling water and mopping water out of the kitchen every time it rained, because it was lower than the entire backyard. And it just happened, and they just weren't fixed. They never fixed it.
I was at a...
So again, know that before you buy. Use it to... Okay.
2 months ago on a house in Yucaipa, 2 on a lot, 440,000. It was a no-brainer of a deal, but I'm looking around and everything, the entire site drains right here. And you could actually see where the thing had flooded.
I was just going to say that. One way to tell, you can usually see it, that you have a big backyard, etc. You might see that it's higher. A lot of times you can see it with your naked eye. Walk around and look at the baseboards and look to see if you see the faint flood line. Okay?
This place had a basement and it had flooded. You could see it.
Yeah.
And so, yes, so I'm not a enthusiastic buyer at 440 where I was before I had to figure that out. So now I'm looking at the dude going, well, I'm really excited about this place at 390 because I've got to mitigate the water shedding. And he looked at me like I caught him naked because he knew exactly what the problem was and was hoping one of us wouldn't catch it. And I didn't get the house, somebody else bought it.
Yeah,
good for them.
We've done it where we've had 4 out of 5 houses in a row. Septics were always, they were fine. No issue, no issue, no issue, no issue. And we had used that, they hadn't pumped it in years, and we're like, and so we got price discounts, etc. And then we had like 5 in a row that were just bam, all bad.
Who has a septic guy? Does anyone have a septic guy? Okay.
Who has 2 septic guys? Or 3?
There you go. Okay, listen to me.
Really?
Everybody in this room, if you're going to flip houses, you're going to deal with houses that have septic in it because they're lower on the food chain. Okay?
Some people won't buy it.
Yeah, they're lower on the food chain, and Aunt Bessie says, well, that house, I always hated it because it has septic, and I'm the buyer for that house. All of you are the buyer for that house.
One of the first deals I was going to buy in 29 Palms, I walked up to the property, a wholesaler was doing it. It was a 6-unit, and it turned out the owner was there that day, and I graduated high school with him. I actually beat him up in like the 7th grade. I walked in, and the guy walked in, he said, hey Dennis, he's like, hey Evan, and we're talking. And then I realized he's the owner. And then I said, hey, what about this? I was investing for a year, okay, 6-unit, oh my God. And I said, so tell me about septic. He's like, I've never touched it. He owned it for like 9 years. And I went, someone said, well, that could be 50 grand. And I went, I'm out. And it was basically take over the payments, and he would walk. He called me begging me to take over the property. I don't know if you remember this. Midnight was just formed, Midnight Properties, and my partner and I were like, too risky. I'd do that deal now any day of the week.
That's the opportunity, though, that I know that's the opportunity I'm selling you guys. I'm telling you I made millions of dollars taking advantage of the guy that says, oh, that's a $50,000 septic repair. And I'm thinking to myself, is that a septic system for each unit? Because that's $50,000 is crazy. Now, yes,
it wouldn't have been 50, it was probably 15, but 15 was 50 to me as far as my checkbook was. And it still scared me. But again, I was new. I didn't have the club. I didn't have Jim to call. I didn't have me to call or Ryan or anyone. Didn't have that. That's one of the advantages, again, while we promote this. You can go write a check for 50 grand to one of their TV guys, for example, and you're not going to get them to come out and take a look at that or ask questions like that. You're just not.
Guys that own septic companies like to drink tequila and scotch. Okay?
By the way, we like Building 5 and Burns, and there's another company.
All of you should understand what a nice bottle of scotch looks like and costs. Okay? I can honestly tell you, when I had the 30 deals going, I had a case of wine in the back of my car, and when someone would do me nice, I would give them a bottle. Okay? You guys have got to start. You guys have got to start seeing this, and let me just tell you, this is the key, this is the ticket to get into the dance. Is if you don't have an insurance guy, like every one of you guys should be back in his face. Every one of you are going to be buying insurance. Every one of you. He's the guy. He'll tell you how to do that. Okay. And every one of you probably, if you do 5 deals, are going to deal with 3 or 4 septic tanks.
Yeah,
because it's just the nature of the deal, and you got to learn how to manage this.
This goes back to getting a good team together. It's really what it is. We were hearing people talking about getting a team, someone on your team, inspector, an attorney. Turned out that one of us realized that Yesenia, right? Yeah, one of our attorneys I was just with yesterday, I left their office and started talking, and I said something about Georgina, and she goes, Lebby Law? I grew up with her, and they were friends, and we were talking about her. And she said, see how wonderful she is. I said, we've known her for like 5 years, and she's one of our attorneys that's on our team. We have like a litigator that deals with real estate, etc., who's also a doctor, so if you need a medical attorney, it's great as well. But we have 2 different attorneys we go to, whether it's about living trust or probate that I was seeing her on. So again, you want them on your team so that you have it. Yes, Legal Shield's great. There's a lot of reasons why to have Legal Shield. I can see it. I used to have it. But I'd like to be able to call.
You're being very kind.
Yeah.
Come on, folks.
I like.
No more Legal Shield.
Yeah.
No more.
I get the reason. Mick has a real reason, especially if it's out of state, why you want Legal Shield. But I wanted to call Paul and say, Paul, Angela and I have a problem. And he says, no problem, let's talk. Okay? And I want that. So when we're going to go fly to Hawaii and bump and see our attorney there, sending his daughter off to Australia, and we have a great time. That doesn't happen with Legal Shield. So I understand that. I wanted to talk about going back to the foundation, drainage, etc. I actually walked on a property in Barstow years ago, it was like 5 years ago. This was literally, it was a big hill you could drive onto, and it was a 4-unit that was built off the hill. And the guy was giving it away for like $99,000. And Rich, I think, was just coming on board with it. We went out looking at it. It was all studios. And I was looking at it, and you could literally walk between the 2 buildings, which were upstairs and downstairs unit. You could walk out the door, walk up the slope, turn around, walk on the roof. Or you could drive up to the top of the hill, get your car a little bit, get a running start, and ram right into the top of the roof. I walked that. I just said, I'm not going to sleep at night. I'm sure insurance will be higher. It's going to be higher maintenance. And I ended up not taking that. And I actually regret not buying it or wholesaling it or just flipping it, because the guy that bought it for $99 sold it for $160 like 5 months later. I didn't want the headache. I didn't want the worry. There's a point you might get where it's like, there's another deal, we don't need it, because I just sold a lot of my higher maintenance. Studios usually are higher maintenance, higher turnover, that we didn't want. So understand it's okay to walk from a deal based on your information of your lifestyle, or you don't want to deal with that type of thing.
And so with the proper, abundant mindset, you were talking about that earlier. So what does mindset have to do with septic systems or a house built on a cliff or something like that? Okay, so I don't, the greatest thing that ever happened to me is I realized early on, I don't need to do any deals. It's actually, the people I work with, now I'm gonna sound kind of like a pompous a-hole, but they're lucky to have me. I know what I'm doing. I take care of these people. I do well for them, okay? Yeah, do they sell to me for 40 and 50% off? They most certainly do, but they don't say, oh, that guy's a shyster, he's a son of a gun. Because I honor myself with it's my time.
Yeah, see,
it's my time.
He knows his value, and again, that's something that it takes time. But that's where I tell you want some of the books. There's some great books. You can get them from the club. The Help Mindset, hanging out with other people that are either in the club or doing things or whatever you do. You golf. You like to bowl. You like sushi. Go hang out. All those things. I ride motorcycles. I'm jeeping now. I'm still doing that. I hang out with other investors, other people that are just not negative Nellies. It's not so much that they're in the business. They don't have to. Just not the negative Nellies. Keep them at a distance is all I need, because they'll drag you down. You can't do this. You shouldn't do that. Don't you know what happened last time? Stay away from those people. Okay? There's just...
Your brother, your brother-in-law, your uncle, your cousin, your sister, your mom, your dad, the guy at work, the woman at work, your father-in-law, your mother-in-law. Yeah, I can do it all. Because none of those people were champions in my life. I had to come here and find Evan. I had to come here and find, some of you that I have relationships with. That's where I get that from.
We've got just a couple minutes left, and so what I'm going to say is the last thing I'm going to bring up is that if you're looking at like electrical issues, electrical panels, doesn't have a fuse box. Okay, is there a sub panel with a fuse box? Is it a pushmatic? Modern breakers, actually, you flip up, you flip down. There's something called bulldogs or pushmatic, you actually physically push. I've actually bought houses with those and had them, and they were notorious for causing fires. I don't know any, I'd always switch those out. I did in the beginning, but then I noticed I'd buy a house and I'd see the remains of a fire. So there was always an issue, and they stopped using those. So is there aluminum wiring? Is it old knob and tube, which is a cotton-coated,
unless you're going to do a complete redo, a $60 a foot redo, knob and tube is a good reason to walk away.
Yeah, so I grew up in a house with knob and tube on it, so I'm less scary of it. However, the problem is a lot of people put insulation over it in the attic, and that heated up, and the cotton would also get brittle and catch fire and cause trouble. So those are the things, again, so you are aware when you walk the house. That's all it is. So now you can negotiate and go, you realize you have knob and tube up there, and you don't have junction boxes, and you have exposed wiring, and now that's gonna get you another $12,000 off the price, okay? So I have to stop on this here, but look at these. I will say this, the one house I personally won't buy today, I would wholesale it, is a meth house. I wouldn't touch it. Why? I've read enough about it. It permeates every aspect of the house. I just wouldn't do it. I'd buy a marijuana grow house. That's me. I'd wholesale a meth house and I'd tell you about it, but there's so much liability down the road. So, would you?
No, I'm not a meth house guy. I've done grow houses though.
I have one now. I have a grow house now I'm working on.
Hey guys, death, divorce, default, like keep this, like all of the, like we've kind of, I don't think we did you guys a service in the sense that we went through a lot of things not to do, but guys, how many three bedroom, 2 baths, 4 bedroom, 2 baths, 13 to 1,500 square feet are there within a couple mile radius of your home, or of where you work, or where you hang out in, or where you know the best, of your hood, where you can knock on the door to an old lady that you used to know 22 years ago and say, yeah, a friend of mine's looking for a home, and she's like, oh, I'm just thinking of moving. That's how you do deals And all of this cruddy stuff we're talking about.
We're just pointing out again the things to look for when we actually walk a house before we make an offer, or as we made an offer, or even after we made the offer and we're still walking the property. You go, look, I did not realize that there was on this property that someone stole all the electrical out of the attic, or all the electrical, because you finally got down underneath the house and just took a look at the crawl space on a raised foundation. We've actually done it where you look down there and the whole thing is covered with stuff, with crap. You can't see anything, and every pier wasn't an actual pier that supports the house. Every pier was a tree stump that someone cut out of a tree in 1930, and they were all rotted away, and we had to do the entire house. And you want to know that before you buy it. That's all we're saying. And then use that to get a better price in the house.
And you don't need, first of all, you're not going to get a contractor to do this for you.
Yeah.
If a contractor will do this for you, it's probably a good idea not to use him. That's my opinion.
No,
Yeah. So you're, again, guys, it's the spider sense. Like here, I got a quick one. You know, all of you married ladies out there that have a husband, you know, the husbands go out with their best friends from high school, and the story at my house would be like, yeah, we went to a really nice club. It was really nice. Okay, now the reality is, my wife already knows not to ask me, what kind of club? Where were you at? You know, like because you have a spider sense. You have a sense that you're like, I see this. I know it's wrong. I know this is. I feel this. Okay, that's what we're talking about on these properties. You go out to these houses, you see them, you understand. You understand right away. Okay, and it's funny. I see the married ladies and they're going, yeah, I understand, because they do. Okay, so you. Be a good evaluator of your own emotions, okay? And if you keep on walking into houses and saying, no, this isn't gonna work, well, it's always possible that you're wrong, okay? But
well, the last thing is that 5 minutes or 5 seconds? 5 minutes, okay. Remember this, I was talking to someone, I think it was Alma earlier today. Understand when you're looking at your ARV, okay, times your percentage, 75% minus repairs, that still works. So we're just saying you understand that you can use these techniques, use what to look for, so you can figure out what the cost would be, so you know what to make on your offer. And if you get into an offer and you've already made an offer, and now you find out something literally like the ground isn't perking, where you can't put a new seepage pit, a new septic system in, etc., and you're going to spend more money, you can go back to them and ask. Hey, or you can say, look, I need another 20,000 or 10,000 offer. I got to stop this deal. It does happen. I always try to do that I just don't like doing that. But if it's really to discover something, go back and renegotiate to make the numbers work. Okay?
Renegotiate to make the numbers work. I have my own little software that I mean, it's an Excel document. Anyone can do this. I just put in $450,000. That's the expected ARV. I put $45,000 as the rehab cost. This Excel document says that there's going to be $6,100 in resale escrow fees, $22,000 at 5% real estate commission, $45,000 in rehab costs, $3,800 in purchased escrow fees. They said the recommended purchase price is $297,000, and before holding costs, I make $75,000. Now I know this because I've used this for 8 or 9 years. Like if you call me up and you say, hey, I got this house, and I go on to Redfin, I mean, that's how sophisticated I am, Redfin, and I put your address in that you've given me, and it says that for the most part the houses in the area sell for $450, and I just pull a number out of my tail. I can't go above 45,000. And if it doesn't make sense, if it's not that formula, what he just said, 75% minus repairs, if it's not that formula, I just walk.
Right.
I just walk, and what that means is you gotta kiss a lot of frogs. You gotta go out and you gotta keep talking
Again,
and
it's just
talking
going
and
in
talking.
eyes wide open and being able to make your best offer. And I let people know when I'm offering, like, look, I got to be conservative, and that's why we're at 75%, not a lower percentage. Anyway, we're wrapping up. We got to end this here. First of all,
So we got about 5 minutes for questions.
Yeah, 5 minutes for questions.
Try and keep up the answer concise.
Okay. All right, we got to answer quickly. Who has questions? Todd.
Yeah, I think it's important to go pull a permit history on a house before you close.
We're in escrow to buy a house right now. We just went to the city and put an email in to find out the code enforcement issue on the property. So what he asked was, hey, do you ever go to the city and find out about the permit history? Yes, we do that frequently, or at least code enforcement and fire. You got to look at both. Yeah.
I do it on every house, and I own a fourplex right now that the Yoruba Valley said that it was a duplex, and luckily I went to the county. I found a permit for 4 gas meters and 4 electrical meters. And just so you understand, guys, that's what they call a covenant. That's been permanently put on the property. They can't call it, I don't care what they call it. It's not a duplex anymore, it's a fourplex.
So yes. Another question? Roy.
When you're estimating the rehab cost of a property, I heard you saying that before it'd be like 20 or 30 cents dollar per square foot. What is it now?
You know, I was just looking at a number today of a house we were doing, and we were at 80. And so anywhere, it's really like 30, 50, and 80 I use. I was using 20, 40, and 60, but 30, 40, 80, 30, 50, 80, and for the cosmetic, you can still do it cheaper. I mean, I just paid labor to paint a house and fix it up and for like $3,000, and it would be like $15,000, but I still got a few thousand to do. But those are just a quick minute figure of what it would cost versus a full rehab, roof, everything, windows, maybe septic or not, or one big ticket item, and you could be as high as 80. That's all. And depending on where you're at, etc. Yes?
Are you buying these at 20 or 30% ARV or?
No, I'm buying usually 70, 75% ARV minus repairs, somewhere in there. We have gone higher than I'm comfortable with. That we know the area, we've gone 80 and 82% because we're going to turn them, or it's a rental. And I paid almost full market because I'm still going to cash flow $800 a month, and I only have a small repair. Well, I'll do it because I want the property because I have 2 other properties near it. I've done that. I don't know about, but.
No, I personally these days am not really doing a lot of repair work. All of the big snafus I've ever had revolved around contractors and big construction jobs. I've taken on $500,000 construction jobs, so I'm not scared of a construction job. My last flip was a duplex in Hemet. I paid $257 for. My friend Joe here financed the deal with me with Ryan. We sold it for $380,000. I did $3,000 worth of work to the property.
I just traded.
There you go.
Yeah, we traded a house that had $80,000 worth of work for something free and clear that had a tenant that we didn't have to do anything. I think today we put a faucet in because we didn't want to deal with it at the time.
I think that's telling all of you guys. Listen to me. I can do any deal I want. He can do any deal he wants. We're talking with the last 2 deals we've both done had virtually 0 repair.
Right.
Think about that.
And one thing, make sure you talk to him about when we walk properties, look for extra value. Look for the extra 300 square feet that's really there, maybe from an enclosed room that wasn't. Look for when you buy a property, realize there's a lot in the back. So often you buy the property, you get a free and clear lot. Talk to him about that, he'll tell you about that. Or look for that, where it's got a second home, or a shack, or extra living space in the garage, whatever. Look for those extra, and those are the ones that I was buying and I'm keeping as rentals. So the last 3 were like that, had something extra that was a value there.
What do you got, Ray?
Of the layout, how do you do that? Looking for because right walls you can just tear down and make it up the layout.
Well, I can tell you right now, I don't believe tearing walls down is a profitable thing. I mean, I can just tell you right now, it's just not. It's very, very expensive.
Yeah, certain houses.
And I just need you to understand, it's a whole nother level you have to disclose a lot more. And you can't, now you've got to swear that the flesh beam that you put in, what was there before you bought it? I mean, I'm just saying you open yourself up to a lot more liability and a lot more disclosure. Listen to me. How many 3 and 4 bedroom, 2 bath houses are there in Rialto?
Or buy it as a rental. If it works, keep it as a rental, because then most renters don't care.
Now, with that said, I've opened them all up. I've done all the stuff. It's expensive. It adds a month and a half onto your construction. So what's that? That's $5,600 in interest and insurance and everything else.
Any last questions? Yes, Alma.
So the formula you said for the flip is the ARV times 75 minus the cost of repair.
ARV, times 75%
minus the cost of repair.
minus repair.
What about the buy and hold? Is that a different formula you guys use?
Oh, I would say 50%. That's a joke. No, I mean, it's what cap rate are you comfortable with? I mean, that's really, what kind of return on the capital that you put out on the property are you interested in? The fourplex I was talking about, where they want to be a duplex. So I own that property free and clear. My basis is about $310,000. It's worth $850. I only put $3,600 a month in my pocket. It's a bad investment.
There are some. There are some
you gotta know your numbers.
investors will only buy this, and and the gentleman I said earlier loves his job, etc. Buys rentals, but he's an engineer, loves it. If he doesn't get it at a big discount, he still will buy it. I don't care how much you make. It's against his religion to do that. If it's a good rental, I don't mind doing it, paying more, or paying closer to market. If everything makes sense and it still works, it's okay. It's what am I going to get out of it? Is it going to be good for me or not? And do I have the cash, and etc. So it just depends what's comfortable for you, because you're going to keep it longer, so it can work at a higher. That's all. As long as you also got good financing, and that's a whole other thing.
I mean, you need to make 20% on your money. It's a lot of liability you're taking on. I don't understand doing deals that making 6 and 8%. It just doesn't make any sense.
You want to make 15 to 50%, and then more, but
on your capital, on your cash that you've invested in the property. That's what we're talking about there.
2 more questions.
You mentioned a cesspool earlier.
Yeah, we talked about, yes. Okay, she asked about a cesspool. Anyone who does not know what a cesspool is? Okay, a cesspool is before there were septic tanks, etc. Someone would maybe dig a big hole, maybe make a brick line, etc. And all the waste from the house would go into that, and that's it. And it would leach out. You could build them. I've bought houses with cesspools. You usually, if there's a cesspool there and you're going to sell it, you need to put a septic system in, and understand, depending upon where, you're going to spend anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000, possibly, to just put a new one in, unless there's a problem, and you might spend even more, like he just did.
Don't say no to those deals, but it's just another wrinkle that you really don't want. I'll be happy to talk to you more about it if you're interested. Juan, what you got?
And if you're near a stream in the mountains like Crestline, if you're so many near that, or you're near a well, there's other issues. But we bought some with cesspools and converted them, and I've sold some that had it. But during escrow, while we were doing it, we installed it then for the new buyer. Because I had one that had several, it was a multi-unit, had several septic and an old cesspool. And we converted it and had it done during escrow, so I didn't have to front the money. They paid then. That's how we did it.
You have to test the soil too, because you can't always put in the septic.
Right, and Jim can talk about that.
There's just a ton of variables. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I don't want to shut you down. If you have a specific question, I can help you out with it.
Yeah, feel free after, because we'll be here.
What you got, Juan? I recommend you purchase 1/4-inch graph paper, and I recommend that if you have the time to do it. I haven't been able to master my phone. There's a little app that you can but I recommend you draw it out, because when you draw it out, you'll see there's a gas stub line here. There's this one. You want to do things deliberately. Okay, and you want to do them the same way deliberately. It's why Todd Dominguez was out there doing his work, and when I saw him answering all 7 pages, I knew that he was different from virtually everyone I ever spoke to about this, because he was willing to do the work. And if it's as simple as 1/4-inch graph paper where you write it all out,
Well, let me
Do
say
it.
this. One, if you're talking about when you're buying a house, you want to know if it's really a 4-bedroom, not a secret 2-bedroom. On title, it should say, when you do your prelim, when you're in escrow, when you do your prelim, it'll tell you if it's a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, and then you can find out. Sometimes on the MLS, it'll say, if you're buying on the MLS, you might find an old MLS listing, it'll say MLS 3, title 2, or tax records 2. And then you'll know that someone added a bedroom and it didn't get on title. And it might be illegal, it might not, you don't know. Then you go down to the city or the county, and I've done it and pulled records and looked for an old, we had to deal with it recently on a deal. So you can find out on title, and that is, I think,
Another question for you guys. The worst mistake, the worst thing you ever overlooked, what it cost you, and what people did to make sure you got.
go for it.
So I
Worst mistake.
I bought 3 houses for $605,000 in Redlands on Grove, across the street from the Alumni Center. It was a proud moment. I'd never purchased like that before. My daughter was doing a lot of design work for us. She put the whole deal together for me. I was lazy selling the 3rd house. I put that the house was on sewer. It was really on septic. I was wrong, and because of it, I knew I would lose in court. I knew what an attorney would cost for me to, because I wasn't going to go to prepaid legal for this advice. I was going to go to a real attorney, okay? And so I spent about $25,000, and I ended up putting a driveway in for this guy. I ended up filling in the cesspool that was there. I ended up putting in a very nice septic system, and I guess since it was a long time ago, I'll tell you, I didn't pull a permit. I just did the work. Okay, it was, I'll tell you what, I took a lot of risks. I knew at the time though, I knew I was going to see the project through. So if I got caught, I would fix it. But I'm just telling you guys right now, I've got a lot of these in my past, but I'm just willing to tell you about them. I think others have the same. They just they don't talk about their turds.
I want to say probably I've lost more money on another job. I think we lost like $12,000 once on a flip in Arrowhead. But really, I really think one of the worst things we did is when I hired the wrong person to do the job. I bought a deal for about $50,000. My other son brought us. I bought it from a wholesaler. It was in Lake Arrowhead. It was my first real flip, and the house was going to be worth like $170. We're going to put like $50,000 in. I think we spent like $80,000 in it. The house had to be remediated because of raccoons and raccoon feces and urine. It's highly toxic to humans, and it wasn't red tagged because of it, but it was like a step down. We had to show certification that the house was completely remediated, and that job kind of went on and on and on and on.
Where do you find an expert for raccoon urine?
We found them in LA, not even on the mountain. It was done in Crestline Lake Arrowhead. We found them in LA. They came out and did it. It cost like $6,000.
You had to fly a guy in from West LA.
Yeah, pretty much. And they were in hazmat suits. I have photos of it. I'll show you sometime. The bottom line is when it's all said and done, we broke even. She didn't even list it. We broke even on it. But it became so long. I learned a lot on that deal. It was my first real deal. I still had a job. But that was one of the best learning experiences, but it was one of the worst things I did. And in the sense of who I picked, I had another option. I thought I'd try some guy. Well, try on that, $85,000, and I was running out of money, had to go to another investor. I did not like that. So never happened again, that situation. That was really one of the times that come to mind. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. Hope we helped.
Jim, appreciate it. Real quick, we have the room for about another 20 minutes for networking. If you guys have any other questions, again, the Mentor Mixer is this Monday. It is on Zoom. It's at 6 p.m. It's on Meetup. It's a free event. So, like I said, if you have more questions, Jim and Evan, they will both be there along with our other mentors. So, thank you for coming and get it home safely. Appreciate it.
Thank you.